Hello, everyone. Welcome to SAP CX Unplugged, our final episode of the year. Thank you, everyone who joined us from the beginning, who commented in chat, who participated in our polls, who engaged with us. We loved hearing with you. We enjoyed doing the show this year, and we're excited to kick off this final episode. I'm Lisa James, and I'm here with my two wonderful co-hosts, Stephen Spears and Susan Ramroop. Susan, Stephen, how are you guys today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited I'm excited and sad for the last show of the year, but we have a great episode ahead. Susan, you want to tell our audience what we have in store today?
Yeah, sure. So today we are talking all about the hot trends and what to expect in 2022 related to e-commerce, customer data and customer experience, and what sellers can actually expect. Last week, each of us polled our LinkedIn community to get their perspective in these key areas. So now what we'd like to do is dig deeper into these and get some insights from some of our industry experts. So before we do that, Stephen, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks, Susan. No, it's great because we're not just doing it by ourselves. Obviously, we've got two great guests joining us, and that's going to be Sally Eves as well as Ronald Van Loon. Now, Sally, she is the chair of Cyber Trust and senior policy advisor for the Global Foundation of Cyber Studies. And Ronald is the founder and CEO of Intelligent World. Sally, Ronald, thank you for being here, and thank you for being festive too. I see a jumper and I see a Santa hat.
Absolutely.
Love it.
A good experience and a good feeling. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and to kick it off, Susan mentioned that fun poll to start because I think this is something that we either talk about online and offline or both, which is a matter of what movie you would consider a Christmas movie that really isn't. Now, we put this poll up, and there's some very interesting choices. I'll be honest. I wasn't part of choosing these, but when I saw them, Harry Potter and Batman Returns had never been on my radar. So I'm curious to get both of your thoughts for this poll to kick us off. Sally, you first?
Okay, I will go with the Die Hard one, actually. So that would be my choice for that particular selection. But yeah, the Harry Potter one, that threw me slightly when I saw that as well. But yeah, interesting choices. I'd love to see what the audience went for, and obviously Ronald as well.
yeah, the only one I've seen, I don't watch so many movies. The only one I've seen with my children is the Harry Potter one. So I have to go for the Harry Potter one. So
Interesting. Yeah. When I thought through this, and I'm curious, Lisa and Susan, what you think. For me, the more I thought about it, Batman Returns kind of is a Christmas movie. It's very dark, but it's a Christmas movie nonetheless.
Is it though?
Hey, Michael Keaton deserves all the respect, Susan. Don't throw shade, okay? I will say for me, nothing screams the holidays like a trip to Hogwarts. So my vote went for Harry Potter.
Nice. So what did the people say?
Let's take a look.
Yeah. It's Die Hard. That's the one, that's the one with the Christmas sweaters, the all that stuff. So I'm not surprised. I don't know if you guys
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, now that we've got that out of the way, Lisa, I'll pass it back over to you to get us kicked off on what the rest of the polls were and the different topics.
Yep, sounds good. We're going to kick it off with the e-commerce poll. So we had polled the audience, what area of e-commerce do you hope to see the most growth in 2022? And our choices were direct-to-consumer businesses, subscription models, sustainability/green commerce, or other. If there's anything else other than these three you think will make the biggest splash in 2022. So Ronald, maybe we can start with you. What are you thinking in terms of e-commerce for 2022?
yeah, so it's what I think and what I want. I think direct to consumer, it's an area which has been growing for a long period, and I think followed by the subscriptions. There's so many subscription business. What I really would like to see and hope to see growing is the sustainability and the green commerce. I think it's so important to have growth in this area in 2022. I think sustainability is a very important issue, and it impacts everyone. So it's quite keen to have the growth over there, and green initiatives will help the organizations to get to this net zero by 2050 that we're trying to achieve. It will reduce the carbon emissions by half what we're trying to achieve in 2030, and where all the industries have to support and have to work. So businesses can really help to drive sustainability in commerce, and they can do this by many different things. Let's say using eco-friendly shipping and packaging. They can share sustainability impact data on their products. So what's the impact on water? What's the impact on CO2? But also by enhancing their logistics and the routing capability and the transportation, for example. So I think that's really key. And organizations can build these type of strategies as well that help them to respond to different areas that are exposed to risk or to identify different opportunities where green and sustainability type of challenges are, and to really make the business. And if they can make it part of their core business, I think it's even a good business, and it's really helping your brand on one hand, but also helping your let's say bottom line. If you look to financial institutions, they can align financial portfolios with climate goals. We see already, at least in the Netherlands, where there's a lot of pressure on organizations that don't have these type of climate goals or don't push hard enough, and where investors pull back their money. So that's I think in an area where we can see an important part as well. And yeah, in general, there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to climate technologies such as electrification of your electric vehicles and the batteries, of course, the hydrogen for steel production. So there's many different areas where there's possibility. And if we then look to e-commerce, if you sell your products and you produce it in a zero emission way, or at least go into that direction, I think that should be the growth area for 2022. At least that's what I hope, and that's what we have to push for, I think, as an influencers group, but also as tech organizations.
What are your thoughts, Sally?
Probably everybody listening won't be surprised by my answer to this one. I have to say sustainability is going to have to be my number one. And kind of following up on some of the points that Ronald made just there, I think we are at a genuine turning point around this as well. And so many kind of vectors have come together, not just the pandemic as one example as well, that I think has helped people to reflect differently, about where things come from, what value really is. Looking at supply chains, we've seen the fragility. I think things have been questioned in a whole different way. But other things as well, the top 5 business risks today are now linked to sustainability. That's consistently coming across different research studies at the moment. But we've got new drivers for this innovation as well. It's not just coming from within business, consumers are driving it. So around 60% of consumers today are saying they're willing to change their shopping habits based on reducing environmental impact. They're also far more savvy around data. We've been to all these, over the last 2 years, haven't we, all these different briefings. Government ones in particular, we've been driven by the data or mind the curve. Kind of this data ubiquity has changed to data evaluation understanding as well. I think everybody who's become a little bit more data literate is asking better questions about where things come from. They want more transparency. So I think we're at a major turning point around sustainability now as well. And that phrase I like to use is embedded or baked in by design. People are demanding, consumers are demanding it, employees are demanding it as well. You want this shared value proposition where the person you work for, so the organization you work for or advocate for or are partners with or buy from, frankly matches your values. So I think we've got this hybridity of personal and professional value coming together that's driving innovation around transparency, around sustainability aims. Ronald mentioned there about data reporting. I think that's a key point. And for me, one of the big turning points as well is questioning that, making sure we've got better kind of consistency across this data as well. So that when you see an ESG report, for example, you can make a better comparison between one organization and another. So it's moving from that commitment to sustainability to accountability around sustainability as well. And tech can make a huge difference. And we've seen loads and loads of organizations really starting to step up around this at the moment. It's something that's center stage now in keynote speeches. It's not on the periphery. It's becoming central to mainstream conversation. And we're also seeing, I did a podcast on this the other day, an organization said, actually, if I want to work with you, I want to see what you're doing in this area. They're using their sphere of influence. So it's becoming, a KPI for partnership, frankly. So good changes are ahead. So we're moving beyond kind of conceptualization and talking about sustainability to actual tangible actions and delivery on it as well. So I'm super excited that we are actually going to, I don't use this phrase very often, it's what I avoid, but I do think we are at a genuine tipping or turning point around this subject. And it's something that consumers will be looking for, not just product, not just service, not just customer experience, but also what you're doing for society at the same time. It's a question of purpose.
I think you both are going to be happy with our poll results because 50% of our polled audience went with sustainability and green commerce. And I wanted to share one comment that was put on the poll. Convenience does not need to come at the expense of circular economy best practices. In fact, the more businesses embrace sustainability with actions, the more customer satisfaction increases with the level of service provided. And I think that goes along very well with what both of you said.
Yeah.
All right. Susan, I think we're passing it on to you.
Yes. Okay. So my question was related to customer data. So we asked the audience, looking forward to 2022, what do you think will most help you and your business drive that next gen customer experience? So the options we gave them were capture more first-party data, improve known customer data, activate real-time insights, or find the right customers. So Ronald, let's start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, if we look, you always have to find the right customer, but I think that you have to do that already since there is commerce. So that's core. But the question is, how can you do this, and what's really required? We've seen the past 15 years, step by step, moving organizations to more real time and trying to influence and personalize more in real time. To do this, your data quality is core, and having the right data is core. But if we look to the trends, and we have done some broadcast about this, is really about the first and the zero party data that you really need right now with the change in the market. As let's say just a fraction of the data is used, but a lot of data is not. You can't use it anymore because you can't get it anymore. The third-party data is getting harder and harder with the changes with legislation. So I think the zero and first-party data, they are driving the next generation of customer experiences. And zero-party data, this data that customers are really willing to share with the company. So it's really much more a balance where they think, okay, if I give my data, what do I get back? And it's this balance which you and the conversation that you need to have with your clients. And this helps organizations really to determine their levels of trust with your brand. So if they trust your brand, they're more willing to give you more. If you give them back more, then you probably get back more. And I think also businesses can get creative and learn a lot about the customers by using the zero-party data, by developing quizzes. You're doing the quizzes, the surveys, asking really the questions from what the input that you really would like to have, and the people that really want to build this connection with your organization, they're willing to give this type of data. So I think it's an important approach, and I just launched a platform where the user can share his data, and in exchange he gets free education. So it's I think a trend where that is really taking off. And first party data comes from company sites, from emails, from let's say pop-up screens. And if people really love your brand, they're going to give you data. But you have to really think, what can you do for your visitor? What can you do for your target audience? What can you do for your clients? And build this next generation of customer experience from this first and zero party data. And the other items like defining and finding your right customer are very important. Doing it in real time and personalized is very important. Improving the data quality and using the data that you have is important, but the foundation, I think, becomes the first and the zero party data, and that's what I would bet on the coming year.
Okay, interesting. Sally, what do you think?
Well, I definitely echo some of that, because again, that was a subject we spoke about early on in the year, and it really resonated with the audience. So I do think that number one, upcoming trend around zero and first party data, particularly with the law and governance changes around this as well, huge value to be said there. But I'll come at it from I'll come at it from a slightly different angle and almost go for an other, which would be about data waste, if I may. And it kind of links, I think 1, 2, and 3 kind of all interrelate to a certain extent as well. So we've got this drive for data quality. I talk about the 5 V's sometimes, in terms of we've got data volume, which is ever increasing, particularly with tech convergence that we have and 5G becoming more and more mainstream. We've got this volatility around data as well, velocity, veracity, and it's all about this quest to get to data value. And what we're seeing, I think, from the customer experience point of view, is that omni-channel and multi-channel aren't exactly the same thing. And we're getting this issue about about getting that value out. And one of the problems is around data waste, and we're seeing that in different areas. So I think we spoke about before, 70% roughly of data that companies capture doesn't actually get used.
Yeah.
We've got 5% that's actionable that doesn't get to the right person. We've got other areas as well of data waste. So I'm hearing a lot in conversations at the moment, concerns about that. For example, it's roughly about 90% of data that's archived, not touched again after 3 months. Got similar sort of percentage around AI that doesn't get out of full kind of pre-testing to full production as well. So everywhere we look around this data life cycle, we are having issues where it's not used to its full capacity. So when I looked at that question and kind of bearing it on the conversations I'm having, I was kind of going for a fifth other, which is that data waste to data value, but it basically has kind of that interplay between options 1, 2, and 3 as part of that. But I thought rather than kind of go back to the zero and first party data, I just put that slightly different slant on it, because it really is something that's coming up very much for me in conversations at the moment. So it's that fifth thing. It's how you get the value, which is very much that combination of options 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, well, let's see what the poll results were. So according to our poll, what they are looking forward to most is how to activate those real-time insights. So again, back to your point, Sally, about data waste, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because one of the comments was that they're receiving all of this data, all of this information, but by the time they actually get it, it's too late, or there's no way of actually feeding it out and teasing out that information. And then it's just, you're right, it's data wastage at that point.
Absolutely. It's a data paradox, isn't it? You're kind of, they're wanting more and more of it, but it's how you filter that and get through the noise to get to the things. It's kind of reactive to active intelligence, I would kind of describe that. So yeah, it's great to hear that we're kind of got those aligned themes, and they're kind of all interplaying together, aren't they?
Yeah, so we definitely have that data quality problem, but let's see what happens next year. So Stephen, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Now, I know in 2021, if you were a seller or a customer service, customer success person, it was probably an interesting year. You had a really lot of weird changes that happened. And I don't see 2022 being a normal year again. So there was a Gartner report that came out that I thought was really interesting at the trends they're looking at as opportunities for next year. So I built this poll really around what they're looking at and talking specifically to sellers. And those trends are digital buying becoming more common, virtual selling changing how selling happens, and then budget shifting to emerging technology. So for you guys, I'm really curious, especially because in a way you both do have to sell your knowledges and your services. You are giving information, but in a way it is a selling motion. So from your perspective, what do you think you could use most next year if you had one of these 3 options? A company site that sells itself, the skills, or some type of training that makes sure that every virtual call you're on, you knock it out of the park, or just technology to recommend smart actions, help you move leads along, manage opportunities for your business. I'm curious which one of these you guys would go for. And I'll flip the script, and Sally, we'll start with you on this one.
No, that is a really interesting question, this one. I'm going to go for option 3 with the technology to support leads and opportunities, more from the integration point of view. Again, whether it's personally and just things that I'm having conversations with at the moment, and reducing complexity, improving integration around data is coming up time and time again as kind of a key CIO challenge. And personally as well, when you're scaling things and going into new areas, it becomes a key area as well. But it made me smile because I've got a new website that comes out in the second week of January as well. So it made me smile from that perspective. But I would go for option 3, really emphasizing that integration point and around the multi-channel, omni-channel point I made earlier on. But I have to say, because I have a big passion around education, I also think alongside the smart tech, smart thinking really matters. And so support around education, whether that's personally, but also outreach to the community, is absolutely key as well. So on a personal, I just have to give a shout around education because it's something I do an awful lot in. But yeah, I will go for option 3 on that.
That's interesting. Yeah, Ronald, from your side, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so basically you need it all. But if I look to the market, what's the most difficult is really to attract your potential client, the ones you really want to engage with. And to have that, you need to have, and I'm not sure if it's the right description, website. I think there's a communication channel, and a website. I see you have your website on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on every social channel. That's also a website. You can have a website, whether it's a mobile app. So if you look from that perspective, I think, the website is really key. Where is the end user that you want to reach? You have to be there. And the core is this great website. So having a good website and a social presence, and maybe not surprised because we are social media influencers, so you have to be on social media, and we post a lot, and you have to engage with the end users with the right content and the right timing to present something. I think that's very important. And yeah, I launched this new portal as well, where it's really key to understand what your end user wants, and how we want it, how we present it, and really have more this trade-off of, if you give me something of your data, I can give you something back, and we start giving more back before we get anything. And I think if you have your website running and you can reach your target audience, whether it's on the social channel, from a social channel to your website, then you can start thinking about, okay, now I need to have the technology to score them, to bring them in, to start conversations. And then you need these skills, of course, to do great meetings to convert them. But without it, there is no conversion. And I think especially for SMEs, it's getting harder and harder to reach your audience. And for them, it's more and more important to have this presence on all the different platforms and social channels and websites, and know what your audience really wants and what they want to talk about, and give, like Sally was mentioning, educate them, show what you do, show how you do it. And by education, you build that leadership, and people come to you instead of that you need to approach them. And that's been an approach, I think, from influencers for a long time, and I expect to continue this for the coming next year as well.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on a very good point there, of that, how do you take all three of them together? Because, obviously for the poll, you got to pick one of them. We're trying to segment it, but that is the reality of, if you've got a great site that sells itself, but then you don't have a natural transition into, how do I get them into a call to take the next step? Things get, it's not easy from that sense. So, all right, Lisa, what were the results that we got? Well, it is the company site that sells itself, top 2, and then of course the tech to recommend best action, which, I'm not surprised in that sense, because same thing, if you're a seller and you've got a site that can do 80% of the work to make sure that the right buyers are coming through that door, it's valuable. And a couple stats I thought that were interesting from that report was 43% of B2B buyers prefer a rep-free experience right now, and 54% of those are millennials that prefer that. So there is this digital buying, but of course, there's also the side of the house that you're not going to be able to make a lot of huge purchases online. So how do you take that virtual selling and combine it with the digital buying? So you guys gave some great perspectives. I appreciate that. I think you hit the nail on the head.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for that. And thank you for everyone who participated in our polls. Before we wrap up, Sally and Ronald, are there any other trends that we should be on the lookout for in 2022?
Sally, ladies first.
Okay. I would say increased rise around location-based intelligence and services for experience. So I think that's going to be really interesting, keeping privacy in mind for all of that as well. But I think that's going to be increased. Again, focus on things like device agnostic experience. I think that's really, really important as well. Like all things, I always talk about the people factors, the culture, the values and skills. So really having a focus on humanizing all things digital in terms of experience, I think always matters. It has to be right up there at the top as well. And also things, maybe reflecting on some of the things we talked about today about measurement, more real-time measurement, getting those feedback loops in, one-click feedback sharing, that type of thing. I think those are other things to look forward to as well.
Ronald?
Yeah, I really believe that it's the coming years, the democratization of AI, and whether it's in the software technology, so every vendor focuses on AI and automates his own type of activities. Then we have the APIs for which the AI is available in all different kinds of formats. And then, you have, of course, the teams that develop their own machine learning algorithms. And this is really going to take off. And you don't even notice it that you use it. But AI is going to be everywhere and going to impact our lives in commerce, in experience, in everything what we do. And that's going to be my key for the 2020.
Absolutely. Age of convergence, I think. I was focusing on the CX there, but it's absolutely spot on. All these different technology trends coming together. It really is, that word hybridity is used a lot, isn't it? But in this case, it really is kind of that actualization of all that potential of technology coming together. So yeah, exciting times. Couldn't agree more.
Definitely.
It's going to be real weird when we are doing like the trends for 2025, and it's like, well, what's the experience on the way to Mars? How are we handling it? So, I'm excited for that episode, though.
Yeah.
So you get a return ticket, absolutely.
Well, thank you both. And that's a wrap for our CX Unplugged series in 2021. But before we end, we definitely wanted to raise a glass to our wonderful audience who stuck with us through the series, to all of our fantastic guests. Special thanks for Ronald and Sally today, and to my co-hosts as well. It's been a joy doing this series with you in 2021. But to everyone, we wish you a beautiful and prosperous 2022. So cheers.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.